competence is discussed about social and cultural knowledge required for appropriate use and interpretation of L2 inclusion and definition of communicative competence as a global as a goal or outcome of L2 learners is highly variable depending on macrosocial context of learners. Next, the second topic is how does learner acquire L2 knowledge? It talks about the psychological perspective. There are also some topics here. Okay. The first one is innate capacity. Some innate capacity must be pursued to account for learning. Language learners are not merely passive recipients of stimuli. There is a creative force involved in a language development and other domain of learning, which must be embedded endowment. The second one is application of prior knowledge. The initial stage of L2 includes knowledge of L1 and the language in general. The process of second language acquisition includes interpretation of the new language in terms of that knowledge. The second one, there is also application of what has been acquired as a part of general cognitive development as well as of all prior social experiences. Next, the third, processing of language input. Input and second language acquisition is agreed on, although its roles in acquisition receive differential definition and take into account from alternative perspective and orientation. The fourth is interaction. Processing of L2 input in interaction situation is facilitative and something also causative of second language acquisition. Benefit come from collaborative expression, modifying input, feedback, including correction, and negotiation of meaning. Second language acquisition is likely to be greatly inhibited if learners are isolated from the opportunity for use. Second language acquisition benefits from the active engagement of learners in interaction or participation in communicative events. Next, restructuring of the L2 knowledge system. Development of L2 knowledge does not manifest itself in a smooth line of linguistic performance, but rather in one with sometimes show absurd change in the language system. This restructuring is a creative process driven by an inner process in interaction with an environmental factors and motivated both by L2 knowledge and by input from the L1 knowledge. Next, the sixth is mapping of relationship association. This development is driven by communicative need and use, as well as by awareness of the probability that a particular linguistic form represents a particular meaning. The last one of the psychological perspective is automatization. Automatization is incremental achievement upon which efficient and effective engagement in a language activities ultimately depends. Next, for the next material, will present by my friend Bulaili. Time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Idnan. I'd like to continue the presentation about L2 teaching and learning. Okay, why are some learners more successful than others? So there are some reasons why are some learners become more successful than others. Okay, the first, social context. In second language acquisition context, social context related to the surrounding environment the learner. Here, social context can greatly impact to the degree of the success of the learner. There are some factors such as the status of the learner's first language and second language, boundary and identity factors within and between the L1, L2 speech communities, and institutional force and constraint all play a role in determining the level of success of the learner. And the second one is social experience. Social experience here can be defined as the quantity and the quality of L2 input and interaction, which are determined by social experience, have a significant influence on ultimate success in language learning. The more exposure and opportunities for interaction a learner has, the greater their chance of success. In this social experience, the learner will be able to get more interaction, to get more discussion with native speakers or other people. The third reason is relationship between L1 and L2. The relationship between a learner's first language and second language can affect the ease of acquiring level the L2. While all languages are learnable, some L2s may be easier or more difficult for speakers of specific L1s to acquire. The genetic, typological, and historical relationship between the L1 and L2 can determine the possibilities for positive transfer of knowledge and skill. And then the fourth reason is age. In second language acquisition context, age can be defined as the age of the learner, because there is a common belief that children are more successful L2 learners than adults due to some factors such as their brain plasticity, analytical skills, inhibitions, group identity, and the number of years available for language learning. However, the evidence for this is equivocal, and older learners may have advantages in learning capacity and analytical skill. Okay, the next one is individual differences. We know that every child, every learner has unique individual difference, and it can impact their success in language learning. There are some factors that influence, such as motivation, aptitude, learning strategies, and cognitive abilities can all contribute to varying level of success. The next one is aptitude. Aptitude related to the learners differed in their capacity to process auditory input, identify patterns, and some linguistic elements in memory. And the next one is motivation. We know that motivation, such kind of the level of effort and dedication that learners put into their language learning journey, because it can greatly impact their ultimate level of proficiency. As we know, there are two kinds of motivation, intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. Okay, the next one is instruction. The quality of instruction can make a difference in formal context of second language learning. And we know that the challenges in defining the success or the term success in second language acquisition or second language learning arise from the lack of common criteria for evaluation. Different theoretical orientation and perspective lead to different definition of success. So there are so many different definitions of. Okay, next, approaching near native competence. After we learn about the reason why some learners become more successful than others, now we are going to know the approaching near native competence. We know that the judgment that L2 learners have approached or achieved near native or native-like competence means that there is a little or no perceptible difference between their language performance and that of native speakers. This is because once L2 system is never exactly the same as the native speakers. Most of us would not consider the final state of L2 development to be completely native, although we may allow for some rare exception. And then there are some implications for L2 learning and teaching. Although we have seen that knowledge of L2 goes well beyond what can be consciously learned and taught, we have also seen that unlike L1, L2 acquisition usually requires intentional effort and that a number of individual and social factors strongly affect ultimate outcomes. And then there are some findings about SLA suggest the following general guidelines for L2 learning and teaching. The first one, teachers should consider the goal that individuals and groups have for their learning an additional language. So here, teacher have to set the goal, what should the learner have after they learning some language. And the second one, the teacher should set priorities for learning or teaching that are compatible with those goals. So here, the teacher should arrange the teaching learning process which is suitable with the goals. And the third, the teacher should have approach in learning or teaching that are compatible with an appreciation of the multiple dimensions that are involved: linguistic, psychological, and also social context or social approach. Okay, we come to the conclusion. Second language acquisition involves the acquisition of a system of knowledge about a second language that goes beyond what could have been explicitly taught. This knowledge includes vocabulary, morphology, phonology, syntax, and discourse. The amount of overlap with the learner's first language knowledge depends on the relationship between the two languages and the circumstance of learning. The next, second language acquisition is a complex process influenced by linguistic, psychological, and social factors. Linguistic perspective focus on what is learned, while psychological perspective focus on how knowledge is acquired, and then social perspective focus on why some learners are more successful than others. By integrating this perspective provides a more complete understanding of the complexity of second language acquisition and its various interactions. Okay, that's all from us. Thank you for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.